Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I would like to start by thanking the Minister of Heritage, Sport, Tourism and Culture Industries for the opportunity to stand today in the House and speak about something that is very near and dear to my heart. It's with great pleasure that I rise to honour what is now Ontario's 11th Italian Heritage Month. While we can't celebrate today with the flag raising on the lawns of the Legislature like we normally would, this is still a very important month for all Ontarians, especially those of Italian heritage. It was in 2010 that Ontario passed a bill that officially proclaimed the month of June as Italian Heritage Month, the first province in Canada to officially proclaim Italian Heritage Month through legislation. It was also that year Italy's 150th birthday. 7 years later, Canada officially proclaimed the month of June as Italian Heritage Month as well. And ironically, it was Canada's 150th birthday. I was so honoured and humbled to be involved in this initiative here in Ontario and federally in Ottawa. When Ontario first passed Bill 103, the Italian Heritage Month Act, I was then the president of both the Toronto chapter and the federal organization of the National Congress of Italian Canadians. Both these incredible organizations focus on bringing the Italian community in Toronto, across Ontario, and throughout Canada together to educate people about the incredible culture and heritage of the Italian community and its contributions to this great land. The Italian Heritage Month Act is important legislation that has three objectives. The first is to honour the heroes of the past, the immigrants who arrived here in many cases with nothing more than a cardboard suitcase, with little possessions other than the dreams they carried in their hearts. These giants are the people that came before us and provided us the opportunity to stand on their shoulders, dream big, and accomplish so much. Secondly, was to recognize the continuing achievements of the sons and daughters of these immigrants and thank them for their leadership, their inspiration, their mentorship, the sacrifices and contributions to their families and to this province. They live amongst us today, making a difference in the sciences and humanities, providing services that improve the lives of everyone. And finally, the act is to inspire future generations to learn from the past and encourage our children to dream, to study, to work with amore e passione, with passion and love, and build a better province and a better country. Today, Speaker, I'm proud to say that over 60% of Canadians of Italian heritage call the province of Ontario home. Ontario is 3.5 times bigger than Italy in terms of landmass, and as of 2016, over 931,800 individuals identified as being Canadians of Italian heritage here in the province. Since the 1800s, the Italian community has made and continues to make significant contributions to the growth and prosperity of the province of Ontario. Beginning in the late 1800s, many Italians came to Canada looking to start a new life, including my parents, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, those that arrived in Canada back then were instrumental in building and growing our province's incredible forestry and mining sectors, including building Ontario's railways and creating connections between communities. As these connections and industries grew, more Italian immigrants came to Canada and to Ontario, where employment saw substantial increases in more industries, such as the construction sector. It was not an easy journey to get here, and they lived in very difficult conditions, but they persevered. There's an anonymous quote that sums up much of what was seen upon the arrival of Canada back in the 1900s. I came to America because I heard the streets were paved with gold. When I got here, I found out three things. First, the streets weren't paved with gold. Second, they weren't paved at all. And third, I was expected to pave them. Ironically, Mr. Speaker, the Right Honourable Ryan Mulroney, our Prime Minister at the time, in a speech given in Toronto at the Weston Harbour Castle, at which I was present, he was honouring the Prime Minister of Italy, Giulio Andreotti. He spoke about the contributions of the Italians to the building of the skyline in Toronto, and he remarked, the Italians built it, now they own it. This was and continues to be a testament to the hard work of this community. Mr. Speaker, When most people think of Italy, they think of the explorers, the inventors, the artists, the cuisine, architecture, automobiles, fashion, and opera. But, Mr. Speaker, there are other aspects that are important to Italians as well. And I'd like to begin by mentioning that one of the most important things to Italians is family. To most Italians, family is the very foundation to who you are as a person. I was blessed with parents who sacrificed everything in the hope of creating a better future for their children. Saverio and Francesca Tibollo came to Canada in 1958, knowing Canada was a land of great opportunity and possibility. Mamma, ti voglio tanto bene e vorrei dire I sacrifici che hai fatto per noi non ce li dimenticheremo mai. Like so many other Canadians, Mr. Speaker, that are of Italian heritage from my generation, my parents came to this country with little. No money, no language, only a willingness to work and make every sacrifice necessary to ensure a better life for themselves. They vowed to work hard, have a family, provide for their children, and ensure that they could give back to their country and to the province. Many of them died at work, given terrible working conditions in the mines, in the railways. And we can never forget what happened on March 17, 1960, when 5 Italian-born workers were killed while building a Toronto water main tunnel under the Don River. The media coverage, community outrage, and demands from unions forced the Ontario government at the time to call a royal commission, which led to new regulations on fire protection, on worker safeties in tunnels, and the first overhaul of the province's labour laws in nearly 40 years. It encouraged the organization of more construction workers and more immigrant workers into unions so they could stand up for their rights, health, and safety. Their dreams saw the revision of labour laws after 40 years that gave way to our modern labour laws. And despite the fact that the tunnels lacked fire extinguishers and resuscitators, the timber supports were not strong enough, grout was not used on the floor of the tunnel to keep out the sand and silt, and there were no extra air compressors, not even flashlights. The site at the time had been deemed safe. Late on Thursday, March 17th, hours after the work should have stopped, a dozen workers were still underground, welding steel plating in a compression chamber west of Yonge Street when a fire started and smoke began to fill the main tunnel. A valve that would have allowed the smoke to blow out of that tunnel would not open. Firefighters arrived quickly, but they were told that they had to wait at least 30 minutes before watering the tunnel down for fear that it would collapse. While half the workers managed to get out, the rest were trapped inside with rising temperatures, toxic smoke, and rising levels of silt, sand, and water. The next day, Pasquale Allegrezza, Giovanni Cariglio, Giovanni Fusillo, and brothers Alessandro and Guido Mantella were dead, poisoned by carbon monoxide and drowned. Mr. Speaker, we'll never forget their ultimate sacrifice while working to build our city and province, where they gave their lives just because they wanted to provide a better life for themselves and for their families. Shortly after the arrival of my parents, I was born in February 1960, and I was raised in Toronto, in an area known today as Little Italy. I'm especially proud to call myself Canadian of Italian heritage. Growing up, it was very normal to see Canadians of Italian heritage working in blue-collar jobs. Whether they worked in construction, ran a small local business, or worked in a factory, I learned so many valuable things from those in my local Italian community. The respect for every dollar you make, working hard to earn what you have, the pleasure of digging in the dirt, nurturing a seed, seedling and plant, and watching it bring you a vegetable or a fruit. Carrying yourself with integrity, honesty, and the respect you should show for your family, the people of authority, your environment, the land and waterways, our province and our country, and everyone and everything around us. It is these fundamental values, Mr. Speaker, that Ontario's Italian community truly believe in, and it's with these fundamentals that I first began my journey to where I am today. My brother Nicholas is a lawyer. My sister Lavinia is an elementary school teacher. I see reflections of my parents and the values of our Italian community in each one of them and how they are raising their children. They are living examples of children of Italian immigrants who have been raised with values that all Italians really hold very dearly. When I met my wife, Silvana, we shared a similar passion of helping others in our community and those around us. She came from a similar background to mine, and one that is familiar to so many Canadians of Italian heritage from our generation. Her parents, Bernardo and Delia Cecilia, emigrated from Italy in 1953 and made tremendous sacrifices for the benefit of their family's future. Silvana was an elementary school teacher in Vaughan Woodbridge with a specialty in core French. She took this role very seriously. She understood that she was responsible for teaching the children who would one day be our future. I meet many of her former students who refer to her as Madame Tibollo when in my constituency office or in my constituency, and I can see the difference that she made in their lives. On this note, I want to thank all the teachers that made a huge difference in the life of a little boy from an immigrant family. While my value system developed at home, it was the teachers that reinforced and inspired me to dream and to focus on being everything I could be. It is good teachers that are the reason why an ordinary student can dream of extraordinary things and do them and accomplish them in his life. It is the teachers today that do just that for each and every young person they inspire through their dedication and passion. Mr. Speaker, family means the world to Canadians of Italian heritage. Celebrating our families, our people, and communities is what Italian Heritage Month is all about. I also want to explain the significance of starting our annual Italian Heritage Month celebrations on June 2nd. For all Italians, June 2nd marks the Republic Day, or as we call it in Italian, Festa della Repubblica. So today, one day later, we not only say Happy Italian Heritage Month, but Happy Republic Day as well to all Italians. The second is an important day because it commemorates the date when Italians voted to abolish the monarchy and form a republic. It also marks the day in Italy that women got the right to vote and participate in the formation of the Republic of Italy. When World War II had just ended, and with it fascism, the Italian people were eager to usher in a new chapter of freedom. Since then, Italy has been a unitary republic, parliamentary republic. And I'd be remiss if I did not mention June 10, 1940, and pay homage to all those Canadians of Italian heritage that were declared enemies of the state and sent to camps around Canada, including one in Petawawa, Ontario. Many families were destroyed when over 600 men and women were interned and over 31,000 declared enemy aliens. The repercussions of these events were felt for years, and anti-Italian sentiments in Canada led to abuse, vandalism, and loss of life. Though lives were disrupted and reputations damaged, not one internee was officially charged of a crime in a court of law. For decades, many Canadians of Italian heritage distanced themselves from their culture and their language for fear of reprisals. They changed their names to Anglophone names and forbid the speaking of Italian in their homes. Many men and women of Italian heritage that are my age do not speak Italian, nor do they have any knowledge relating to where their families originated from. Their memories of their culture and heritage have been wiped clean. Speaker, I believe it is important that we know where we come from, because if you don't know where you came from, then you can't and don't know where you're going or where you're going. And if you don't know where you're going, you'll never get there. And in the words of another famous Italian, Yogi Berra, he said, if you don't know where you're going, you might wind up someplace else. Mr. Speaker, your roots, your customs, your traditions, and your language are critical to how you define yourself. And I was happy to see that on May 27th of this year, the Prime Minister of Canada stood up and apologized to the Italian community. After 81 years of discrimination, humiliation, and suffering in silence, the healing can now begin. Today holds such an importance for the people of Italy and to many Canadians of Italian heritage. However, Mr. Speaker, the whole idea behind Italian Heritage Month is not only for our community to celebrate the fact that we're proud to be Italian, but it's also to give the opportunity to other communities and other cultures to share in the things that we do, learn about the people of Italian heritage who have been an influence on our society and how we as Italians live in the community. Canadians of Italian heritage have created a community that welcomes everyone. This sense of belonging brings comfort to many people. Italian Heritage Month is not only to show the differences of the Italian community compared to other communities, but to show our similarities as well. Multiculturalism, which is also celebrated in Canada the month of June on the 27th, is a time to celebrate our communities as interpreted by each of our distinct cultures. In the month of June, we share celebrations together with Indigenous people. It is the Indigenous History Month. It's also Portuguese History Month and Filipino Heritage Month. And as of March of next year, it will also be Persian Heritage Month. Mr. Speaker, when we start talking about Italian heritage, or any heritage for that matter, one of the things I've always believed in is that our cultural traditions define who we are. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with sharing our cultures and traditions with each other. The more we know about each other, the more we celebrate our cultures, the easier it is to love and respect each other. Peace comes from understanding and sharing out in the open for all to see and hear. Mr. Speaker, traditions are the guideposts that live deep within our subconscious minds and act as guideposts in our lives. As Mahatma Gandhi stated, a nation's culture resides in the hearts and in the souls of its people. Celebrating language, culture, and heritage of all peoples that make our great province is a way to exercise our collective spirit, a way to nourish our collective soul, and how we define who we are as a province. Italians have influenced and have worked with other cultures around the development of the sciences, medicine, the accounting system, and so much more that still continues each day. In fact, Mr. Speaker, Giovanni Caboto, known to some as John Cabot, was an immigrant to England, an Italian immigrant to England, and an infamous navigator and explorer who was the first European to ever draw a map of Upper and Lower Canada. In 1497, Caboto set his eyes for the first time on North America, and gazing upon the land he saw before him, his first words were, "O bona vista." When translated into English, this phrase means, "O happy sight." And so the legend states, this is how Bona Vista, Newfoundland got its name. Mr. Speaker, while we can't have a flag raising and celebration at Queen's Park like we traditionally would, we can never forget the accomplishments of Canadians of Italian heritage and their positive impact on the province. The list of notables is many, from history to modern times. I could easily fill my entire time today simply listing names of the pioneers in every sector and in every corner of this fantastic and great province. I do, however, want to acknowledge my colleagues in the House who are of Italian origin. Minister Victor Fedeli, Minister Ross Romano, Minister Paul Calandra, Minister Stephen Lecce, MPP David Piccini, and MPP Rudy Cazzetto. Mr. Speaker, these are my colleagues, these are my friends, and these are the chosen representatives of thousands of Ontarios around the province. We're all proud of our heritage and are privileged to serve our respective constituents and the people of this great province. Each year, Mr. Speaker, the Canadian Italian Heritage Foundation commissions a poster to mark the month, and I believe everyone was given a copy of it this morning. This year, the artist is Rachel Liberio. When selected, she was given 3 items to include in the poster: the tricolore, or the Italian flag, the maple leaf, and the trillium. This year, given COVID-19, she has chosen to celebrate the people of the province that have gone above and beyond, working throughout the pandemic because they were deemed essential services. The construction sector, with Clearway Construction, started in 1970 by Giovanni, Peter, and Nick Di Battista, represented by Anthony Di Battista, the next generation. Long-term care, represented by Carmela Liparati of the Mississauga Italian-Canadian Benevolent Association. Emergency services, represented by Andrew Cecilia, firefighter with the Toronto Police Fire Services. Dr. Natasha Colia, representing frontline healthcare workers, a pediatric emergency physician at Sick Kids in Toronto. And finally, Mr. Speaker, the little girl wearing the trillium as a hair tie. She is turned away from and represents the future of our province. She is writing on a blackboard, tutto andrà bene, everything will be okay, and dreaming of her future and what she will do to make our province and our country a better place. She's nameless because she represents the dreams of every child in this province and the work we must do to give the children a face and a voice. I encourage all Ontarians to safely celebrate this month and be mindful and respectful of each other. Learning more about your neighbor will not take away from you, but it will give you a better life. And on that note, Mr. Speaker, in nome di tutti I canadesi di origine italiana, vorrei ringraziare tutti I bisnonni, I nonni, I genitori, le famiglie che hanno dato tanto e sacrificato tanto per darci l'opportunità di sognare ed arrivare a nuovi livelli. Grazie. Thank you.
Thank you very much.